All right, hi class. Last class period, we got kind of snowed in. We got some crazy ice. It was hell trying to go home. So this is the midterm prep that we should have done, but we just didn't have time to. The midterm is going to look something like this. Might have a few more things, might have a few less things. These are generally things that we've covered in previous assignments. And if, you know, some of these things like create functionality to flip gravity would be in the scripting API, but not necessarily something that we've covered. So you should be able to, at this point, what are we, 6 weeks in now, able to go to the scripting API and look for stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this and I'm going to do this assignment so that you can practice, follow along, build this, 5 or 6 times until you really feel solid about it, because when the midterm happens, you won't be able to watch this video. Okay, so I have my empty Unity scene. Nothing in it. You can see in the hierarchy. And I will start with number 1 after I make my phone quiet. Number 1, add a timer that creates a capsule in the center of your level every half a second. Have the capsule fall to the floor. Have the capsule destroy itself after between 15 to 25 seconds. Okay. So I need a floor. And I'll put it at 0, 0, 0. And we'll just go ahead and create an empty game object. And I'll put that at 0, 2, 0. Let's make that 4, 0 or 5. Yeah. And get the sun out of there. This will be my capsule spawner. And I'll go ahead and add a new component. Capsule spawner. That creates a new script. And here's my code. So let's see, what do I need? It creates a capsule in the center of your level every 0.5 seconds. So Unity, we did something called create primitive. There's 2 ways to do this. You could create a prefab and then just copy that prefab, and the prefab could be a capsule. But I'm going to use the GameObject.createPrimitive. Let's create this in a new method so I can keep all my code real simple. Create capsule. Ooh, that might be fun. Create prim, and then primitive type. Prim. So I'm getting fancy here. I don't have to do any of this, but the idea is that I could call create primitive and then give it a capsule, or give it a sphere, or give it a cube, give it a cylinder, and it would build those different types, and this would just build all those different types. So essentially, I'm going to create a new variable of the type GameObject named prim. Prim? No, can't do that because we already named this primitive type primitive. So object. No, that's probably a keyword. Primitive equal to GameObject dot create primitive, and then primitive type prim. Okay. Usually I have to do primitive type dot capsule, but here in void start we'll just call create prim, and we'll give it the primitive type dot capsule. And that should make one primitive, one capsule fall at the start. Primitive dot add component. So we're going to add a rigid body. And the reason we're adding a rigid body is because we want it to fall to the floor. So let's see what that does. Okay, rigid body does not exist. Really? I might stop this video and just make sure that my autocomplete turns on. Oh, that's fast. Alright, let's try bringing the game view down here. Capsule spawners, I don't know, probably spawning it at 000. Yeah, it is. So we should probably set its position. Primitive dot transform dot position equals new vector 3 0 4 0. Or actually, let's just do this dot transform dot position. So we'll assign our capsules or our primitives position to be equal to the position that this script is attached to. So it should fall from a height of 5 meters now. And it does. Good. So that, I think, satisfies the... Oh, no. Add a timer. We haven't done that yet. Have the capsule fall to the floor. Have the capsule destroy itself after between 15 to 25 seconds. Okay. So we got a few more things to do. Let's set it to destroy itself. Destroy primitive, comma. And we can look this up in the scripting reference too. We're looking for destroy. And we have two things, the object to destroy and comma, and then a t, the optional amount of time to delay before destroying the object. So float t equals 0.0f by default. So if we go to our code and we type in random.range 15.0f to 25.0f, this will destroy itself between 15 and 25 seconds later. And then finally we need a timer. So float timer equal to 0. And then let's go ahead and create another time. We'll make a public float. Spawn interval equal to 0.5f. And let's go ahead and add a range to this. We don't need to, but we can. 0.2, comma, and 1. Probably 0.2f. There we go. Okay, so timer. If timer is greater than 0, timer minus equals time dot delta time. Let's have an else statement that calls create primitive. And it gives it the primitive type capsule. And then also sets timer is equal to spawn interval. So this line here resets the timer. And this line here creates a capsule. And this line here makes the timer go down. Okay, let's see what we got. So every half a second it spawns. Looks kind of silly. which is why, just for, you know, extra reasons, doesn't have to happen, primitive dot rotation, no, start transform dot rotation, and again, this is something you can look up in the scripting reference, is equal to random dot rotation. And now each one of these will spawn in a random direction. Okay. Let's get rid of this guy. Let me kind of show off what this having this argument does, just so we can learn more cool stuff. If input dot get key down key code dot alpha 1 create primitive type dot cube. And let's copy this again. And this time we'll create a sphere for alpha 2. Okay, so if we go back to this, and I press 1, I get cubes, and if I press 2, I get spheres. Oh man, now I've got to take this farther. Color, given color. Let's make it equal to color dot white. I think I can do that. The expression being assigned to optional parameter give color must be a constant or default value. I wonder if I can make a constant color default color is equal to color dot red. No, white. Default, yeah, color. Having way too much fun. Unity engine.color cannot be a declared constant. So what if I get rid of the constant? And it must be a constant or default value. Damn. Well, we'll just leave it out. That's fine. So when we spawn a primitive type capsule, we'll also give it the argument color.red. And my cubes will be color.blue. And my spheres will be color.black. Let's see what that does. No overload for get key down takes 2 arguments. Huh, because I put that in the wrong spot. Whoops. Cool. And each capsule... Nope. Oh, because I didn't use it. That's funny. So in void create primitive, we're going to add primitive dot get component renderer dot material dot color is equal to given color. There we go. Red, blue, and black. I should probably make those green, shouldn't I? Look at me, so much for just doing it the simple way. Still, it looks good. Okay. Let's look at the second assignment. Add an FPS controller and create 4 steps that change color from red to white and back, or green to white and back, etc. every time you step on them. So there's a couple ways you can do this. You could build a collider, a trigger on the FPS controller, or you can build it on each step. I think I'll do it on the FPS controller. So let's make this larger. And let's make it static so we can see a little bit better. Actually, that might make it way too bright. Here is material and gray. Okay, much more reasonable. Okay. So here's some stairs. Let's see. Let's see. 1 by 0.25 and 2. Actually, let's make you large stairs so I don't have to worry about you. 0.4 and 3. So holding V to get to that snap. And let's create some tags. Actually, I don't know, 4 tags. Let's create the let's create a script on these stairs. So first things first, I want to create another box collider, and this time it's going to be a trigger, and the size on the vertical axis is going to be 1. Let's see, 5. And so it's got this little trigger here that the player is going to step on. And so let's do the same for these. Box collider 1.5 is trigger. Okay. Let's go ahead and add a script, which is just a simple step color. And on this script, I'm going to have a public color change color. And we can make it default to color dot blue. And then let's have a void on trigger enter collider other. So other being the thing that runs into the trigger. And we'll say if other.gameObject.tag is equal to player. So we're testing to see if the player runs into us versus, you know, a capsule. Let's get a renderer. This we'll just call it rend. And rend will be equal to this.get component renderer. And here we'll say rend.material.color is equal to change color. Let's go ahead and make another default public color default color equal to color dot white. All right, let's see if we have any errors yet. And we don't. That's always nice. And we'll see our 2 colors show up there. If other games tag. Okay, good. And then let's just see what happens if I run into this. So where's my FPS controller? Assets, import package, characters. Import all, or optionally, we don't need the roller ball and we don't need the 3rd person controller. Standard assets, characters, first person controller, prefabs, FPS controller, drag him up so he's above the floor, and these other three don't have the step color. Now they do. So the first one will be blue. The second one will be red. The third one will be yellow. The fourth one will be green. So these should all change to the color, but they won't change back. Because I did not tag my FPS controller. So player should already be built. And still nothing, huh? Maybe. No, this guy has a rigid body. Did I spell on trigger enter correctly? Let's do a test. Print. Something entered my trigger. So we should be looking in the console. For something entered my trigger. And nothing is. So let's go ahead and watch the FPS controller being here. Notice he's slightly above that plane. But he's not that much above, is he? Maybe he is. Well, let's just go ahead and change the size to like 3 on these as well. Let's just leave nothing to chance. Oh, there we go. So not enough of my FPS controller had entered the trigger. Let's see. If you get this a bunch to audio listeners in the scene, that's under the main camera. Just turn the audio listener off. Okay, so I want it to go back to white when I leave. So I'm going to use void on trigger exit. Now we'll just leave it false. And we'll just say rend.material.color is equal to default color. What happens now? So we walk in, we walk out. In and out, in and out, in and out. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, let's do it another way. Say we didn't know about void on trigger exit. We could create a timer that set it back. So let's say if timer is greater than 0, timer minus equals time dot delta time if timer is less than or equal to that. How do I want to do this? I want to create a boolean. Bool. Let's just be simple about it, shall we? Let's be simple. Else rend.material.color equal to default color. Why is this simple? Because I just have to do this. The downside is that I'm doing this every frame. Every frame I'm changing the renderer's color to default color, which is expensive. But so be it. When we change the color to whatever color we change, we set the timer equal to like 1 second. The name timer does not exist, so float timer. And so when I jump on this step now, it'll turn red for a second and then turn itself back to white. And that's another way that you could accomplish that feat. Okay. Create functionality to press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to change the time scale to 1, 0.75, 0.5, 0.25, or 0. So we haven't messed with time scale, but if you searched time scale and spelled it correctly, you would find time.timescale. The description says the scale at which time is passing. This can be used for slow motion effects. Really useful when you have things falling. So let's go here, and I think I'll go back to my capsule spawner, and I'll build the functionality into this capsule spawner script. No, I won't. It's kind of full. So new component, game manager. And so we'll just have a few if statements. If input dot get key down, key code dot alpha1, which we've already used once, I know. I will create a sphere and slow down time or set it back to default. Keycode dot alpha1, and here on the same line, because I'm only going to do one line of text, time dot time scale is equal to 1. And then we can have an else if. I'll copy this code. Alpha2, close parentheses. Time dot time scale is equal to 0.75 f. And we'll have 3, 4, and 5. And we'll have 0.5. Nope. There's 0.5. There's 0.25. And there is 0. So let's see what this does. So I look at everything falling, and I press 0.25. And then I press 0.5. There's 4, 0.25 scale, and 0. So that's pressing 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Press 1, press 2, press 3, press 4, press 5. Here's me pressing 1 and 2 a bunch, and then 5, which freezes everything. And I can look around, but I can't move. So that's how you do that. It's pretty fun to use, especially for, it's simple to use for pause. And I think we did actually use that for our pause. We used time.timescale to go to 0. But it is fun to set it to that as well. Okay, what else do we have? Maybe create functionality to flip gravity with G. Okay, so let's go to the scripting API and let's just search for gravity. Physics.gravity. Public static vector 3 physics gravity equals Okay. Also should be known. So I said with pressing G, right? So let's have a Boolean that says gravity is down equals to true, right? So by default, gravity is down is true. And then we'll have an if gravity is true. Actually, we need an if statement for if we press G. Input dot get key down key code dot G. And then we'll have another if statement inside, a nested if statement. If gravity is down is true, then we'll say gravity is down is equal to false. And before that, we'll say that physics.gravity is equal to 9.81. This will be really interesting. Actually, let's just make this equal to 1. That'll make us slowly float upwards. And let's have an else statement. If gravity is down is false, then we'll say physics.gravity is equal to negative 9.81, and gravity is down is equal to true. So I'll show you a trick. Obviously this makes sense, right? We're switching this. If it's true, we make it false. If it's false, we make it true. But outside of switching this, so every time we press G, we can have this simpler statement, which is gravity is down is equal to not gravity is down. And that gets rid of this line and this line. We do essentially type gravity is down both times. So it doesn't save us a lot of typing, but it does save us a little. Let's see what this does. Oh, cannot convert into, yeah, okay, vector 3. New vector, vector 3, 0, comma, 1, comma, 0. I don't want gravity to go in the left, right, or forward, back directions. And this new vector 3, 0, comma, negative 9.81 f, 0. And that fixes that. So we're having fun. We're watching stuff explode, and we press G. And everything starts to go that way, including the FPS controller. And we'll press G again, and everything falls back to the ground. That is pretty satisfying. Let's press G again. Oh man, that's fun. Luckily, if I don't jump, the FPS controller just kind of sits there. And if I press 5, I can freeze time. That is fun. And G again. Cool. I'm glad that worked so easily. So create UI for the following assignment. Okay. UI. That means we need a canvas. Let's see, and on this canvas we need the gravity level, time scale, total number of capsules, total steps on steps, total time elapsed in the start of play. So this is going to be talking between several different scripts. So let's use the game manager script again to control the UI. We need a few references to text, don't we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 texts. So UI and text. Let's go ahead and set this to a 1920 by 1080. And let's find this text. Sometimes it's helpful to hit this 2D button when you're dealing with the UI. Let's go ahead and move you up here. Let's set you centered, and let's overflow, and then overflow, and let's set your font size to something I can see. Sure, why not? No, I can't do that. Okay, 75. That's perfect. So we've got one text, and we're just going to duplicate it, and duplicate it, and duplicate it, and one more time, duplicate it. So there's our 5 texts. And we'll say gravity and then time scale. Text gravity. Text time scale. What's next? Total capsules, total steps. Total capsules. Total steps, and then time elapsed. Time elapsed. Okay, so gravity should be gravity is equal to negative 9.81. Actually, maybe I should make all of this aligned to that side. That way I can make sure that they don't overflow their bounds. Okay, text.timescale is going to be timescale. We'll do it the easy way. Is equal to, let's see, 0.75f, 0.75f. Okay, total capsules is equal to, let's say, 100. Just so I kind of know like how far into the screen these are going to go. Let's have total steps is equal to 25. And then time elapsed is equal to 999 seconds. Okay. So there's a start. I've got the names here for text. In Unity, I'm going to add a using namespace for the UI. Unity engine.ui. And then we're going to create a few text documents. Gravity text. Let's do time scale text. Total what? Capsules. Total cap text. I like shortening names, but sometimes you just shouldn't. Total steps text. And finally, total time. Let's just do time elapsed. Time elapsed text. And then we can assign all of these. So I'm just checking the names here. Text timescale. All right, let's see if we have any errors. Okay, just a bunch of warnings that say we assign it, but we never use it. So I'm just trying to think of the best way to do this. I could have it run every frame, void update, and that would be fine. It would be simple. It wouldn't really affect anything. But if I can do it better, why not do it better? Okay, so let's do this the easy way first. And the easy way is simply to do it in update. So this is update UI, that section. Now we'll say that gravity text is equal to gravity text dot text. That's important. This is a text component, but this is the text string variable inside the text component. So gravity text dot text is equal to, and what did we say? Gravity is equal to, and then plus physics dot gravity dot xyz y. So if this doesn't give me an error, what will happen when I hit play is that it'll switch from 1 to negative 9.81 based on the y value of gravity. So we have physics.gravity, which we change here. It's either going to be 1 or it's going to be negative 9.81. And that's meters per second, by the way. It's accurate to real life. Okay, so that's that. And we can do timescale text dot text is equal to timescale is equal to plus, what do you think? Just time.timescale? Could it really be that easy? I'll bet it can. There you go. That was easy. So total capsules, we haven't started counting those yet. So total capsules is equal to plus capsule count, which is a variable that I haven't created yet. Let's have a public int capsule count. And we'll set it equal to 0 initially. And what's going to happen is people are going to have a reference to the game manager, and they're going to update the capsule count. So every time we create a capsule in our capsule spawner script, we're going to have a reference to a game manager. Reference to manager. That's what the variable name means. And void start will say ref manager is equal to game object dot find game manager dot get component game manager. This is the game manager component. And if we create a primitive like we do right here, specifically with the capsules, we'll say ref manager dot capsule count, right? Capsule count plus plus. So that adds 1 to capsule count, which if we don't have any errors, awesome. Let's see if it works. Oh God. Because we don't have a reference to the game manager. That's funny. So fun fact, if you get a null reference exception, the code just stops after that. It doesn't go to timer equals spawn interval. So I think what I'll do, just to be like on the safe side, is put ref manager after the timer. But in void start, it's not finding game manager, I assume, because I didn't name that object correctly. Oh, it's the plane, right? No. Where's my game manager? Capsule spawner. Okay. So, fine. Capsule spawner. So it's going to find that capsule spawner script. It'll find the component game manager on the capsule spawner. And it should run like a dream. There you go. Total capsules. Going up, 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 up. And if I add other stuff, doesn't matter. Because I'm only adding 1 to capsule count when I call my create prim for the capsule. Total steps. Okay. So let's do the same thing here. Game manager. Public int. Step count is equal to 0. And in our step color, we'll get that same line of code from capsule spawner. And we'll simply say on trigger enter if something entered my trigger. If the tag is player, we'll say ref manager dot step count plus plus. Okay, no errors. And we'll come back to my code here for the game manager and we'll say total steps text dot text is equal to total steps equals plus step count. And again, this is updating every frame, which is silly. But that's the way it is. And we jump, and we jump, and we step on more steps, and the step count goes up, which is pretty cool and useful. Okay. And then finally, the time elapsed is the easiest one of all. We are looking for this guy, real time since startup. And if you didn't know about it, you could have just gone to the time interface and said, hey, I wonder if there's a way for me to know how much time has elapsed. And you would have found, where is it? Real time since startup, right there. The real time in seconds since the game started. Optionally, you could have also just said float total time elapsed is equal to 0. And then in update, just said that total time elapsed plus equals time dot delta time. And if it does that every frame, it will have roughly the correct amount. So let's go ahead and use that. Pretend that we don't know about real time since startup. Text is equal to total time. Let's just do time elapsed. Time elapsed is equal to. plus, and so we could just do total time elapsed. This would create a really ugly number though. Right? We don't need all those decimals, we just need like maybe one or one level. So total time elapsed dot to string, and then we can format it 0.0. What else can we do? We can, one other thing. Oh yeah, I wanted to add a plus, quotes, and then seconds. After a space. Okay. So there you go. There's my midterm. Wow, it took me an hour to get through all of that. So maybe I won't make the midterm any longer than this is. And we'll just have something. If it takes me an hour, giving you guys 3 hours or maybe a bit more should be okay. But I did do a lot of other stuff too. Oh yeah, I forgot to check if they were deleting themselves. It appears that some of them are. Okay. End of video. Good luck. Send me questions if you have them. Otherwise, I'll see you in class next week.